Outback Stories.
Outback Stories celebrates the pioneering spirit of Australia. It makes little difference if your family came on the first fleet or on a leaky boat last week. Our unique national identity was born and bred in the Outback. These are your stories.
It's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. It's all for me beer and tobacco. Well, I spent all me tin in a shanty drinking gin. Now across the western plains I must wander.
Australia's treasury of folklore, especially the songs, poems and humour, abounds with stories of hard-working bushmen pocketing their season's cheque and going on the spree. The late 19th and early 20th century rambling army of itinerant bush workers lived by the creed, work hard and play harder. Timber cutters, shearers, ring barkers, sheep washers, fencers, cane cutters, boundary riders, drovers, doggers, rabbiters would live in the most primitive conditions for long periods of time. Work when work was available, then go on the rantan, bluing their cheque. In most cases, it was a tale of woe. Some would point to the desolation of the bush or the absence of women that drove so many men to self-ruination.
Yeah, we worked like horses and spent our money like asses.
I'm stiff and stony broke since I parted with me moke. And the sky is looking black as flaming thunder, and the shanty bosses too, for I haven't got a sou. That's the way they treat you when you're down and under.
Drunkenness was a long-standing problem in the penal settlements, then on the goldfields, and later in wayside shanties and country towns. Australia's legendary dryness appeared to have an unquenchable thirst.
For those who lived and worked in the cattle or sheep stations, alcohol was forbidden. Foolhardy behaviour simply didn't go with hard work. There were consequences, and sometimes that could be fatal.
Drink-fuelled male bravado could also be a problem, where men lived in cramped quarters and the slightest provocation could end up in a Donnybrook.
Then when the sheds are all cut out, they get their piece of paper to the nearest pub there, and they cut a dashing caper. They call for liquor plenty, and they're happy when they're drinking. But what to do when the money's gone, it's little they are thinking. And it's home, sweet home, that is what they left it for, their home, sweet home.
Thirsty drovers on the track sometimes succumbed to the temptations of a wayside shanty, but their contract to safely bring their herd to its destination usually brought them to their senses and back into line. Harder cases carried a bottle of overproof rum in their saddlebag for a nightly nip or two. always aware of not letting the nip bite them back. A sozzled drover was a liability to man and beast. The really ugly side of the bushman's battle with the grog were the so-called lambing down shops. Taking its name from the innocence of lambs, the practice became widespread during the gold rush, when gold-crazed diggers, fortunate to find a few nuggets, were considered easy prey for unscrupulous sellers of grog.
Most of these sly grog operators operated from a simple tent, but they had one intention, and that was to take the miner down of his little golden nuggets.
Only one more drink, said the hardy bushman as he leaned across the bar. Only one more drink of that good old whiskey, then away to the camp so far. So he called them in, and all were welcome, and his check went round like rain. And for weeks and weeks there's been boozers watching for that man's return again.
The practice continued into the rural sector and into more permanent arrangements. The tents became hotels, but the intent remained, and that was to lamb down the sucker.
Lambing down was practised across Australia and was still known in the early part of the 20th century. Viewed as lambs for the slaughter, the swaggering drover or shearer, his pocket near bursting with his season's cheque, was seen as easy prey for the unscrupulous shanty operator.
Here's to the good old brandy, drink it down, drink it down. Here's to the good old brandy, drink it down, drink it down. Here's to the good old brandy, yes, that makes you dandy. Drink it down, drink it down, drink it down.
Many of the grog shops were named to convince the bushworker that they were especially welcoming. The Shearer's Rest, the Jolly Drover Inn, the Bushman's Friend, and so on. The addition of barmaids from the 1870s onwards was an extra attraction.
And these girls soon learnt the ropes on how best to lamb a man down and liquefy his cheque.
The Riverina Grazier of 1887 reported the following tale. It was amusing for anyone who took an interest in the game of life to watch the scientific style in which one of these barmaids handled her forces, giving a smile to this one, a wink out of the corner of her eye to that, while the bashful young fellow, who was only drinking soft stuff, she'd invite to have a drink at her expense, but under the condition that it should be whiskey, sulphuric acid, she should have said, as it was not good enough shouting lemonade. A very short time, and it's very little persuading he'll require to make him drink. The bright eyes and winsome smile of the barmaid will be nothing compared with a bottle of whiskey with the cork drawn in one hand and a nobbler glass in the other.
Landlord shouting isn't common, he's kidding you to sport and play. Divil a man can e'er be sober in those shanties by the way. It's rows of bottles standing upright, labelled with bright blue and gold. Beer so cold it needs no icing from the cellars to rear dog hold.
One lammer-down publican told the Mount Alexander Mail in 1876, "We always used them fairly, you know. We kept an account against every man, and he had food and drink and tobacco for every penny his cheque represented. It sometimes took 4 or 5 weeks to spend the money. In fact, a big cheque would now and then run into 6 weeks, but not often." When the money was all gone, we usually gave our customers a few shillings to help them up country again and put a bottle of grog in their pockets. They always went away quite contented, and we knew next season would bring them down again. After a couple of welcoming shots of the special brew, the landlord or barmaid easily convinced the bushman to leave his swag behind the counter, for safe keeping, and then the drinking started in earnest. The Australian system of shouting kicked into action, led by the barmaid, and then all and sundry, including freeloaders. Hours turned into blind drunk days, days to weeks. After his cheque was exhausted, the bushman's saddle and bridle, horse, and even trusty dog had often jumped the bar. There was nothing left but despair.
It went like beer, beer, glorious beer, fill yourself right up to here, drink till you're made of it, don't be afraid of it, glorious, glorious beer.
Lambing down shanties typically had a special brew for their clients. Akin to rocket fuel, it was made from bar slops and rum, and often matured with a plug of tobacco. With the cheque nearly gone, the poor wretch was hauled out to the dead house, a room at the back of the hotel where his delirium tremors played havoc. After a day or two, he staggered back into the bar, where the host poured him a farewell drink before sending him on his way. If he parted with all his money, the landlord might generously give him a bottle to take with him. These lambing down operators were merciless, and used the excuse, if we hadn't lambed them down, someone else would have.
Sure, I'm just about the cut for the Lachlan, and to turn 100 out, I know the plan. Given to me sufficient cash, you will see me cut a dash. Sure, I'm Tambaroora, Ted the ladies' man. Woo!
Clary Peters told of an unscrupulous landlady who, when sending shearers away after their spree, would write them a cheque for what was left of their money, and then bake it in the oven. When the shearer travelled some 100 or so miles and looked in his saddlebag, the cheque had disintegrated to dust. Done down again.
Penniless, you'll have to wander for many a long and dreary day, till you earn another cheque to squander in those shanties by the way. I've been a wild rover these many a year, and I've spent all me money on whiskey and beer.
The practice of lambing down continued up to the beginning of World War I. After Federation in 1901, the bushman, intent to get to the city, well, he could just hop on a train. But when he got there to the Big Smoke, he typically found that the city hotel operator also had a keen interest in his cheque, just like the old-time lammer-downers.
The wild rover no more.
So give me, old brewer, and give me a tart, and I will be simply all right. Can anyone point to a finer old joint than Brial Street on Saturday night? When me and my Vidgie go walking along, my cobbers all try to be smart and get out of the way, for it's Joey, they say, going out with his fair dinkum tart.